Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give just one more minute since some people seems like are still joining, so we'll just wait another minute and get started. Okay, I'm going to get started. So thank you everyone for joining the CEDEN user group this morning. I'm Tessa Fojit. I'm the CEDEN database manager at the state water boards. Right. And here's our agenda for the day. I have some announcements, um, update on integrated report 2030, a short or one topic on sample type vocabulary, and then I'll provide some updates on our CEDEN 2.0 development. And then there may be time if people have other topics they'd like to bring up, and then also if you have ideas for things to discuss at our next meeting, we will take that at the end. So welcome to the CEDEN user group. So as I said, I'm Tessa, the CEDEN database manager. And then just always like to share with you who our team is here at the water boards. So we have our CEDEN vocabulary management team. I believe they're all on. Jennifer Salisbury, Candace Hines, and myself. And then our lead staff for the CEDEN 2.0 transition is Keenan Smith. So when you email us at CEDEN Waterboards, all of us are checking that inbox. So you'll hear from one of us if you reach out to that email address. All right, starting with some announcements. So we had some various discussions on vocabulary business rules and formatting at our last meeting or two. And in January, we posted an updated vocabulary request template on our state STEAM website that includes those new business rules and guidance that we discussed in December. So if you do have a new vocabulary request, you can use that updated template and make sure you're following all that guidance and rules that we talked about in there. And then we also discussed some CEDEN 2.0 resources at our last meeting. And so we posted a couple things on our CEDEN user group page of the CEDEN website. So we have the chemistry template for CEDEN 2.0 that's up there. So you can check that out now. And then there's also a data submission guidance document, like the template guidance document of description of the fields and how to populate each field is also posted up there. So feel free to check those out whenever you're interested. Um, we are also in the process of updating our CEDEN website, and we are expecting that to go live in April, so just in a couple weeks. And it is going to be a new web address, so a new URL. So if you have the CEDEN website bookmarked, you may need to update that. If you go to the old one, it should redirect you to the new one, at least for a while. But we'll definitely send out an email to this group as well as others when that is live and updated. Um, and then I just wanted to let you know about another project we are working on. So for those of you who may submit data to the using the CEDEN checker to the State Water Board, you know that for the past couple of years, we've had this system where we're posting those data, at least chemistry data, to this CEDEN augmentation data set on the open data portal, and those data have not been loaded in a way where they can be found in the CEDEN query tool. Um, so we are actually finally working on bringing those data in so that they should be found in the CEDEN query tool. So that is not done yet. We are in the process of working on that project, but it should be complete sometime this year. Hopefully sooner than later, but we have a lot of projects going on right now, so I don't want to give a official timeline, but definitely sometime this year. So when that's complete, I'll definitely we'll share that news because I know that's something that's been a limitation. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. My call dropped. Can everyone hear me now? And did I just leave off at this integrated report data solicitation? Okay. Um, so just the on-cycle regions for the data solicitation this year are regions 2, 4, 5, and 8. So that's San Francisco Bay, Los Angeles, the Sacramento Basin of the Central Valley, and the Santa Ana region. So, um, and we always just really recommend people, if you are in in this cycle, that you try to submit your data sooner rather than waiting until that last day in August when they will be due, because data gets submitted, but then there's still a little process of getting it loaded and into the official data set. So um, it's nicer if you can get it in earlier and confirm that they're in there, but before that deadline, instead of submitting it on the last day and then hoping it will get loaded by the deadline for the internal data pull. So just spreading this news far and wide. I know integrated report staff have also been spreading this news, and especially once the notice goes out, I'm sure you'll get lots of email notifications if this is relevant to you. Any questions so far? Okay. Okay, great. I'm just reading the chat before I move on. So next, this topic I think maybe I'm looking for a little feedback from folks. Um, we're thinking about updating some sample type vocabulary. So particularly the sample type of the kind of the default value of being able to put not recorded for the sample type. So sample type is really key to understanding, how data users should use those results. Usually if it's an environmental sample, it's either, grab or integrated, versus if it's lab QC, it might be lab blank or lab control spike. And I guess I'm mainly talking about chemistry, but this is also important in all the data types. Um, and basically data that have a sample type of not recorded, we don't assess those in integrated report. Those get filtered out because they're just it's less clear of, what those data really are representing. And then similarly in the CEDEN augmentation data set, we don't show those to the public because it's sort of like that the level of data understanding is so low that we don't share that publicly. So using not reported, there are some valid uses of that, but we have seen that some submitters are just using, sort of these like default values of not recorded for many of the fields, and that just make the data not useful, basically, or unusable. So we're kind of trying to figure out how we can address this so that we get useful data, for us as well as other users. So the two options I thought of so far, but I'm open to other feedback and ideas, are we could basically remove that from the valid vocabulary list, not recorded for the sample type. So as I said, there are some valid uses. I know it's often used when you have non-project lab QA because you don't necessarily know, was it a grab or integrated, or you don't, because it's not from your project, you don't know really what that sample type was. So that's like in chemistry, that would be mainly for like a matrix spike that was from a different project, but is for the batch QC. So we could provide, we could provide business rules on what to use in those cases where that sort of was a valid use of this sample type. And this option would be consistent with what we're doing in CEDEN 2.0. So in CEDEN 2.0, we're not allowing you to use not recorded for sample type, and then we provide guidance on what to do if you don't know it. The other option that we could explore is, at least for the CEDEN checker for data that are submitted to the water boards, we could see if we can create a new check that would only allow not recorded for sample type if it is for non-project lab QA, but not allow it in other cases. And so there, it would have to look at other fields to determine if that's the case. Um, so I am curious if other people know of other valid uses of this, or if you have other ideas on how we could basically not allow for like environmental samples. We don't want people putting not recorded because then we the data just really aren't useful. Um, so for us, the simpler thing would just be to end the use of not recorded. Creating a new check would be more work and a longer take us a longer time to accomplish. I'd be curious. Oh yeah, great. Kelly, go ahead.
Um, I was just curious what the business rules are for ending the use of it, because we do use it, but it is only for the non-project QA. So, what would we use instead, or how would we get around that?
Yeah. So basically, it would just be dependent on your matrix. And we would just say if your matrix is sample water, your default sample type would be grab. If your matrix is sediment, your default would probably be integrated. And if it was, we for like tissue, there's like tissue grab. Um, there may be other scenarios I would need to think through, but I think those are like the main, more chemistry based samples that would be using this. So because it's like for a matrix spike, um, the purpose of reporting it is really for the QC part. We actually don't care that much what the sample type was. It's more just looking at, what was the recovery or what was the RPD. So for non-project QC samples, that the sample type actually doesn't matter that much. And so we would just say use these default values even if you don't know it. Okay. Well, if there's any other thoughts or feedback on this, I would love to hear it. And I won't take any action on this immediately. I'll give a little time. But we've just had a number of people like, why aren't my data showing up? And it's like, oh, because you put not recorded or so we just kind of want to say like it's not useful to put not recorded for environmental samples because often they do know it, but I think some submitters are just kind of like, I'm just going to use default values for everything to be, try to make this as easy as possible. Okay, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I think your option one sounds fine. The only thing I would just say is when you roll it out, make sure that when one of the errors that comes back is, we're not able to match up the base sample to the MSMSD. So as long as you check that and make sure that function is working, I think it should be fine.
Okay. Go ahead, Kelly.
Would removing the use or ending the use of not recorded, would that kind of default end up being a check? Um, so
Exactly.
you wouldn't have to go through the work, but it would be um, as effective.
Exactly. So it's pretty easy for us to just to like end the use of any vocabulary in our lookup lists. That doesn't take too much work for us to do. So basically saying this is no longer a valid vocabulary, then the check will be like, nope, that's not a valid sample type. So you can't, you need to change that to be able to submit. So it's like that check is already built in if that it checks if the vocabulary are on the lookup list. So if we
Okay.
remove it from the lookup list, then it won't allow that.
I can't think of
Jennifer.
any data that we
Oh,
would use that would need it. So I think the
yeah.
default is fine for our purposes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Jennifer.
I would also like to add that the template is also a really easy way for us to update as well. It's a super easy button to push where we just update the information about what is acceptable.
Right. You mean the vocab request template, Jennifer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. And um, right, we could also add the what the defaults should be in our like chemistry template guidance document. Okay. Okay. Well, so it sounds like most people who are providing feedback are saying it would be okay to just and remove not recorded from the lookup list. Um, we'll send these notes out for anyone who couldn't attend this meeting, and give a little time for other comments before we take the action. But sounds like that will probably be the easiest option. Okay, and if anybody has another comment later, there should be time later in this meeting, or you can always put things in the chat too. Okay, so I think I'm going to move on unless there's any other comments on this. All right, so now I'm just kind of giving status update on CEDEN 2.0 development. So this is probably going to be having CEDEN 2.0 updates is probably going to be on every meeting agenda because we assume this group is kind of our main interest group for the development of CEDEN 2.0. So for anyone who may be new to these meetings or new to this group, the Water Boards has been working for a while with a software vendor named Earthsoft to customize their platform, their data platform called Equus, to intake and store CEDEN data. So we're trying to update our data system The first phase that we have been working on is chemistry data, and then sort of also at this same time a little working on field results as well as habitat, like observational field observations. Um, when we have completed this first phase, we'll start working more heavily on taxonomy data as our next module, but um, we're really focused on getting chemistry out the door and live. So our schedule, we have had our contract lab that we have do a little testing last year, that gave us some good feedback on how the system was working. We have started sort of testing API connections with our regional data centers who are still going to be operational and submitting data to CEDEN even when we transition to the new system. So um, we've been working with them. We're going to be working on our field forms and sort of field and habitat data submission um, a little bit more in this second quarter of 2026. We're working on our outreach and resources this first quarter as well as next quarter. So I've already been at a few meetings announcing that the chemistry module will be going live this year, and just trying to spread the word so it's not a surprise to anyone who may need to submit CEDEN data. And then we don't have an exact date, but we are planning the public use of the chemistry module in summer. So I think last time I said spring, but um, part of what we realized is that with the integrated report data solicitation, we didn't think it was a good time to make everybody switch to a new system, sort of like right in the middle of that data solicitation period or even at the beginning of it. So it's probably going to be right after the integrated report data solicitation time period. Um, but we will keep you updated as that becomes more finalized. So as I mentioned already, we have the data template, the CEDEN 2.0 chemistry data template is posted on our website. So it's on if you go to the CEDEN website, it's on the user group page. And then along with that, the chemistry data submission guide. Which, describes sort of the business rules and, various rules of populating things. So if you haven't checked that out yet and you're a chemistry data submitter, I encourage you to look at it. But I think you'll see a lot of the fields are very similar, if not the same, as the current template. And then there's just kind of a few new fields and a few fields we took away. And I see Lisa, go ahead.
Um, on the chemistry data template, I noticed that you have the vocab request tabs on there in that template as well. And I think I read that you have to submit those separately from the actual data results. So my question is, can we split those tabs out to be single spreadsheets rather than the 3-tab file? I'm not quite sure what we're uploading to Equus. Is it just going to be the chemistry results tab?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. Um, we we sort of came up, I don't think I have it pulled up to show everybody, but as Lisa was saying, there's 3 tabs in the template. One of them is chemistry results. And so when you're uploading data, you would only populate the chemistry results tab. Um, and then it's sort of instead of just so like right now, if you need to request vocabulary, you guys just, populate our vocab request template and email it to us. So in the new system, in the Equus system, you actually can populate the the template, there's two vocabulary request tabs there. So you can upload it to the system to submit your request. And so then that request is like tracked in the system. Um, but as Lisa was pointing out, it's like you can only do one or the other. You can either request vocabulary or submit results. So um, I don't think it's possible because to separate them out at this point because the whole format and schema is like built on that. But we did try to separate it out in the like online portal of like if you want to add vocabulary, here's where you go, and here's the tabs you use. And if you're uploading results, you go to this other area. So I wasn't really planning on giving a demonstration today. I was gonna kind of give a bigger demonstration of the system at our next meeting, but um, maybe if we have time, I can do a little show and tell today.
And then I
So
had one other question.
yeah,
Is this format finalized? I'm just
the
being a
template is
laboratory.
final.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to submit this to my LIMS vendor for creation of an EDD so I can populate it out. Um, but I don't want to do that until it's a finalized form.
The template is final. So right, as submitting results, you're only looking at that results tab. You would not, so for submitting results, you would not use those two vocabulary tabs.
But
So
I do
like,
have to have them included in the EDD because they
yes,
have to be created as part of this template that gets uploaded.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Yep. Yep. And then I saw there was an Equus ID. Is that something that, um, uh, how do we get that?
So that's a field you don't populate. The system will populate that in the
Okay,
background.
so Equus
Yeah.
sample ID. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And we do in the submission guide, there's a couple fields in there that are sort of internal fields that will be populated based on what you submit. So um, I know, I think we'll see if we're able to sort of block those off or at least have a different heading color or hide them or something to try to make it more obvious, just like if you're looking at just the Excel template.
Thank you.
Okay. Um, so then what we're working on right now, coming up soon, I mentioned earlier the CEDEN website redesign. That's sort of, we're trying to update a lot of things this year. So along with CEDEN 2.0, updating just our overall CEDEN website, which will have eventually, it will get more and more information about CEDEN 2.0 on it as we go. Um, we will be adding probably in the next little while some information of like how to navigate the Equus site. Prob- we don't we don't want people logging into it yet, but I think we will probably get some of those posted just so people can start exploring. But we won't give you the official like URL to where you could log in. Um, but we're planning some guidance documents, some videos, and we're gonna work to get those all ready before we are going live. So right now we're kind of in a big outreach stage. So as I said, we're meeting with our regional data centers regularly to make sure they're, able to make this transition and work out how it'll all work. We're going to be trying to work with our labs. I'm grateful that some folks from labs show up to these meetings. We're also working with the ELAP group to kind of reach out to labs. And we actually are planning a specific sort of fact sheet for labs to point out some of the things that are going to be different in CEDN 2.0, where they may need to make changes to their limbs or other ways that they do things. So we're going to try to get that out sooner than later, because I know those sorts of changes take time at labs. Um, so we're gonna have, and we'll be announcing things on lots of listservs, just trying to get the word out because we don't want CEDEN 2.0 to be a surprise to anyone. So you may start seeing those, and we're also sharing it a lot in our internal water boards meetings. Um, we recently went to the Water Quality Council Monitoring Council meeting to share the status. But if anyone here has other groups or listservs or things, people groups that we should be reaching out to, going to their meetings, I'm very would like to hear that because we do really want to make sure everyone who may need to know about this is aware um, before it's live. So just putting that out there that we are. Feel free to share with me or share among your groups. So, as I said, our next steps were, continuing to develop our like training and education resources and doing outreach activities, working out our field modules so that can launch either at the same time or very shortly after chemistry. And then in summer, is when we're expecting the public use of the chemistry module. So we do have some time today, but I guess I was planning on our next meeting which is in June. I would give sort of a demonstration and walkthrough of the Equus site and a little show and tell of, how to request vocab and how you would upload your results and things like that. Um, since that'll be a little closer to when we start before the launch of public use. Um, but that was really all I had today. So do people have any questions, um, feedback? And then is there other information you would like to discuss at future meetings? Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Um, for the checker on this new CEDEN, are you going to be using like an EDP similar to what CLIP uses?
Um, it is based on EDP, but it's, I know a little bit about the CLIP system, but not everything. Um, so the CLIP system, for those of you who don't know, is the drinking water data submission portal that is also based on Equus. So I think it works a little differently. I think we have more quality control checks that are like built in. So when you upload your file and check it in our system, it's gonna tell you like, oh, you're missing your lab duplicate. So that'll just be a warning to let you know. Then the system will add an additional flag beyond, the QA codes that you may have already added to say like this batch was missing a lab duplicate. So I don't think CLIP does that, but it is based on EDP, which is like the Equus data processor technology.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Cassandra.
Yeah, hi Tessa. I was wondering about back to the not recorded. Um, I don't remember us talking about that yesterday, but in the RDC meeting, but maybe we did. But there'll be like a hard cutoff before that gets end dated, right? I'm just thinking about data we might transfer to you.
Yeah, I was thinking I needed to reach out specifically to the RDCs and see when
Yeah.
would be a good time to do that if we go that route.
Okay. Okay, good. I mean, it's not that we can't handle it, but we have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Okay.
we would want to coordinate that with you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And Dawn, go ahead.
Yeah, I had another meeting and jumped in here late. Is there a way, I'm sorry if you said already, but will there be a way to get the recorded version of the meeting?
Yes, we post them. We post the recordings on our CEDEN user group page. That's like on the
Okay.
CEDEN website. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's like each meeting has a link, and then there's like a link to the recording within the notes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and then next is Kelly.
I was just noticing the format information tab on the template has the same formatting for required and lookup and required. I was wondering if those could maybe be different, just so that when we look on the main page, we know which ones we need to have lookup lists for.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look at that. Okay, so yeah, I was thinking our next meeting, I would spend most, if not all of the time, basically giving a demonstration of the different things you can do in the system, how to request vocabulary, how to submit results, and just giving an overview of the whole site. Um, and it sounds like everyone agrees that's a good thing to do. Um, but if anyone has other topics they would want to be addressed or discussed at the June meeting, you can always send us an email or let us know right now. I think if we don't have any other comments or feedback to share right now, then maybe we could end the meeting early. Okay. I'm taking this silence as we may be complete today. But we'll send out the invite for the June meeting probably soon, and then we usually get the notes up within a week on the CEDEN website. I'll just show folks where you can find that. So this is our current CEDEN website, and then there's a user group page that you can get to right over here on the left, and then there's these are our past meeting notes, and then within, if you click on that, there's a link to the recording. And so I will say this is the site right now, but in a couple weeks, we are going to be launching the new website. So it's going to look different, but there will still be a user group page with the similar notes and things like that. But we're very excited to finally get an update on this page because you can tell it's not from the 2020s. Okay, so we'll send emails out with when some of these updates are live, and otherwise we'll talk to you all again in June. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.